When are you going to leave? You're just after money, you dirty woman.
That's right. She's really filthy. On top of that, she has a rude mouth, an ugly face and heart.
My mother-in-law and sister-in-law laughed mockingly at me and made a fool of me. Even though I have been taking care of my father-in-law after my husband eloped, why do I have to endure such remarks? I ran out of patience and finally decided to leave my in-laws. Afterwards, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law experienced hell.
Well, why are we going through this?
My name is Tammy, a 34-year-old office worker. I graduated from university and have been working in the same company ever since. I currently hold the position of assistant manager, responsible for many subordinates. It's a role of great responsibility. I have been with this company for 12 years, and it is a great place to work, and the work is very rewarding. I've always enjoyed working, but regardless, I consistently think it's a great company. And I think a big reason for that is because the president, Douglas, is a very good person. This company is quite successful even among small and medium-sized enterprises, with good sales and decent salaries. But what sets it apart is its remarkably low employee turnover rate. Actually, since I joined the company, very few people have left, and even when they did, it was mostly due to reasons like marriage or childbirth. I have been enjoying my work every day, feeling glad that I joined this company. And perhaps because of my positive attitude toward work, I had gained a great liking from the president. Therefore, about a year ago, the president made me the following proposal.
Tammy, you are truly diligent, hardworking, and a wonderful woman. If you're okay with it, would you mind meeting my son, Nathan?
Huh?
Oh well, if you already have a boyfriend or are considering marriage, then it's a different story. But I would like you to meet my son at least once.
I was taken aback when the president suddenly said that to me. It happened to be a time when I didn't have a boyfriend, and besides, I didn't have the courage to refuse such a request from the president. I hadn't had many opportunities to meet someone, and my parents had been asking me when I was going to get married, so I decided to give it a try. When I agreed, the president was very pleased.
Thank you. I will contact my son right away.
And just like that, a date for me to meet the president's son was quickly arranged. On another day, after work, the president invited me to a fancy restaurant. When I arrived there, both the president and his son were waiting for me.
Nice to meet you. I'm Nathan.
His first impression gave off a refreshing and handsome vibe. With a gentle smile, he greeted me, and I couldn't help but feel a flutter in my heart. We enjoyed our meal and had various conversations. His stories were interesting, and I found myself drawn to him. Afterward, we exchanged contact information, and he contacted me later to arrange another meeting between the two of us, which I agreed to. To be honest, I had a better impression of him than I had expected, and when we met again, the time spent with him was incredibly enjoyable. From then on, we went on more dates and became a couple.
Tammy, I heard from Nathan. It looks like you've decided to start dating.
I apologize for a delayed announcement.
Oh no, there's no need to worry about that. Nathan feels relieved to be in a relationship with someone like you, Tammy. But if there's ever anything you're not comfortable with, feel free to end things with Nathan at any time.
The president laughs when he said that, but I have had no complaints about Nathan so far. He is kind, reliable, and we are in the same generation, so we have great conversations. He is also gentlemanly, and I couldn't find a single thing to dislike about him. Afterward, We continued our relationship smoothly. Although he is the president's son, he currently works in a different company, not his father's. I learned that he has been working there since graduating from university and feels a sense of gratitude for being given the opportunity, which is why he has chosen to stay there. Eventually, he may transfer to this company to succeed the president, but that decision will be made through decisions between him and the president. So I haven't particularly touched upon that topic. Amidst all this, one day, Nathan proposed to me.
I want to walk everywhere with you for the rest of my life. Tammy, please marry me.
Being proposed to by Nathan made me incredibly happy. Of course, my answer was already decided. I will be with you for the rest of my life. And so, we decided to get married. Nathan and I went together to inform the president about our decision.
Oh, so you're finally getting married. This is wonderful news. Let's celebrate right away by going out for a meal with our families.
The president, pleased with the news, made plans for a dinner with my future in-laws. I felt relieved that the president was happy about it. A few days later, I had a meal at the restaurant with my future in-laws. Nathan's family consists of his father, Douglas, his mother, Anna, and his sister, Rachel. It was my first time meeting Anna and Rachel. As expected of the president's wife and the president's daughter, they were dressed in high-end brands and exuded elegance. I suddenly became nervous. Although I have known the president and Nathan for a long time, and don't get nervous around them, I knew that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law would scrutinize me as another woman. I couldn't help but worry if they would like me or not.
Nice to meet you. I'm Nathan's mother, and this is my daughter Rachel.
Hello, nice to meet you. I look forward to getting to know you.
Well, it seems you take care of your appearance.
Rachel suddenly said that while checking out my outfit. It was the most expensive outfit I had, so if it was criticized, I thought I would be in trouble. I was relieved to receive a compliment. Afterward, we enjoyed our meal and conversation. Thanks to occasional support from Nathan and the president, I was able to have smooth conversations with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law.
Tammy, nice to meet you. Let's get along from now on. As the wife of this family, please take your responsibilities seriously.
Yes, thank you. I will do my best. I suppose for now, I have gained the approval of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Hearing those words from my mother-in-law brought me some relief. Afterward, we complete the introduction between the two families, and Nathan and I had our wedding ceremony. Many people from the company attended the wedding, as it was the wedding of the president's son and deputy manager. And as the wedding proceeded smoothly, Nathan stepped forward in front of everyone, took the microphone, and made the following declaration.
Thank you very much for attending our wedding today. From now on, I will be transferring to my father's company and working with the assumption of succeeding as the president. I kindly ask for your guidance and support.
Afterward, the president also stepped forward.
Everyone, please take care of my son from now on.
And he made his greetings. The venue was filled with excitement, and everyone applauded together. The wedding was a great success and became a joyful ceremony. Afterward, Nathan and I went on our honeymoon abroad and started living together upon our return. Our newlywed life was incredibly enjoyable. Since both my husband and I work in the same company, we commuted together every day and devoted ourselves to our work. Although my husband is in a different department, he seems to be diligently learning his job. Well, since he will eventually become the president, he may come to my department in the future, and I might even teach him about work. To ensure that I can properly guide him when that time comes, I will also put my full effort into work. With enthusiasm, we worked and had a wonderful newlywed life at home.
Tammy, you're really good at cooking. It's really delicious.
Thank you. It's worth cooking when you eat it so happily like that. My husband always ate the dishes I made with great delight, and he never failed to compliment their deliciousness. I lived alone for a long time and cooked for myself a lot, so I was getting good at cooking. I felt glad that I could be useful in this way. My husband and I were living a happy newlywed life, and I truly felt that marrying him was the right decision. We lived a peaceful life as a couple for a while after that. But about 2 years into our marriage, my mother-in-law began to interfere in my affairs. Hello, Anna. How can I help you?
Tammy, when are you going to have children?
Huh?
It's been 2 years since you got married, you know. You'll be in trouble if you don't give birth to an heir soon.
My mother-in-law started shouting like that suddenly over the phone. I'm sorry, but having children is a gift from nature. My husband and I have been discussing waiting for it to happen naturally.
Well, how dare you give me your opinion as a daughter-in-law? I can't believe it. You're getting too full of yourself just because my son likes you, aren't you?
No, that's not true.
Then have a child right away, or else I will make you two get divorced.
That's... My mother-in-law was pressuring me by saying such things. I immediately consulted my husband.
My mother says something like that?
Yes, she shouted at me and said those things.
That's terrible.
My husband said he would talk to his mother and address the issue. But then, I received a phone call from my sister-in-law.
Hey, listen here. What's your intention trying to tattle on Nathan and attack our mother? Your actions are petty.
I never had any intention to attack anyone. I simply discussed it with my husband because I was being unfairly criticized.
Oh, great. Nathan made a mistake by bringing in an insolent wife like you.
That's... My sister-in-law, just like my mother-in-law, directed harsh words at me. At that moment, I realized that both of them disliked me. If they want an heir so badly, why don't they let my sister-in-law have the child? Why am I the only one being blamed? But if I were to say such things, they would get even angrier. So I held back my words and remained silent.
Now my sister too?
When I consulted my husband, he had a look of disbelief.
My sister has always been divorced once and came back home. So maybe she don't like you, Tammy.
That's...
Well, you don't have to deal with them.
However, even if my husband said that, there was a strong possibility that they would still come after me on their own. What should I do in that situation? I was thinking that, and sure enough, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law snubbed me every time I went to my parents-in-law's house. They would call me names like a heartless woman, useless, or a gold digger. They would take advantage of moments when my husband and father-in-law weren't around to say such things. I had no choice but to endure, and going to my in-laws' house became extremely unpleasant for me. However, amidst all of that, another troubling incident occurred. My father-in-law, who is also the president, suddenly collapsed. The cause was a heart attack. Thankfully, he managed to survive, but due to the severity, he was left with some after effects. Unfortunately, it affected his legs, and he ended up requiring care. This not only caused distress within our family, but also unsettled everyone at the company. We immediately held a family meeting to discuss the situation. I had thought that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who lived with him in the family home, would cooperate in taking care of my father-in-law. However, both of them refused to do so.
I absolutely refuse to do any caregiving.
I don't want to do it either. Why is that? He's your family. You live with him.
Taking care of someone and valuing them are two different things. Anyway, we don't want to waste our efforts and time on caregiving.
Waste? I was disappointed with their arguments. Despite the fact that they can live comfortable life thanks to my father-in-law's earnings, I wondered if these two even had a sense of gratitude. My husband was also exasperated by their statements.
Then should we hire a caregiver?
My husband made that suggestion, but surprisingly, both of them began to reject even that.
Absolutely not. That's right. Allowing a stranger to freely come and go in our house? We have no idea what could be stolen.
My mother-in-law and sister-in-law vehemently opposed it, saying such things. Then what should we do? You're not suggesting we put your father in a care facility, right? My father-in-law may have mobility issues with his legs, but his mind is still sharp and he's full of energy. He even says he can continue working while using a wheelchair. The option of putting him in a facility is unthinkable. It seems like my mother-in-law and sister-in-law understand that too. And then, they came up with a ridiculous idea.
Well, why don't you do it, Tammy?
Huh?
That's right. Taking care of a family member is the wife's duty after all. You should be the one providing the caregiving. But, well, Nathan is working, so he doesn't have time for caregiving, right? That's why you're the only one available.
But I also work at my father-in-law's company.
Oh, please. I bet you don't do much there, do you?
Exactly.
You have just brown-nosed your boss and climbed the corporate ladder.
The words of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were too cruel. And the conversation kept going in circles. And in the end, I had no choice but to give in.
So Tammy will be taking care of me?
Yes, that's what we discussed.
But what about your job?
You don't need to worry about that. That's right. She's willing to do it for us. Besides, Nathan and Tammy will be living here with us, so we can have a peaceful and secure life.
My mother-in-law and sister-in-law made various decisions without considering my opinion, and I was forced into a life of living with them and taking care of them in my in-laws' house. My father-in-law responded,
Well, if everyone has discussed and decided on it.
Douglas seems to accept it with understanding. He must be glad that his son will be coming back home. Afterwards, thanks to my father-in-law's arrangements, I continue to be employed at the company by taking on the responsibility of caregiving. This meant temporarily putting on hold the work I had been handling myself. From then on, I started taking care of my father-in-law at my in-laws' house.
Tammy, I'm truly sorry.
What are you saying, Douglas? We're family, so please rely on me anytime. Caring for my father-in-law itself wasn't that difficult. He was very kind and grateful to me. On the contrary, it was the time outside of caregiving that was challenging. Living with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law felt like being treated as a housekeeper. I was supposed to be cohabiting for the purpose of caregiving, but somehow, most of the household chores ended up falling on me. Both my mother-in-law and sister-in-law would mess up the house as they pleased and go out to enjoy themselves at their own convenience. My father-in-law was dismayed by their behavior.
You don't have to worry too much about the household chores. Anyway, those two wouldn't even notice if you cut corners or not.
Douglas's word gave me some relief. However, during this time, I had another worry, and that was about my husband. My husband, who used to be so kind, started to push all the caregiving and household tasks onto me, just like my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. And since I started staying home for caregiving, My husband started coming home much later. He claimed to be working late every day, but I noticed an increase in the days when he smelled of alcohol. There were days when I noticed the sense of shampoo or soap on him, which made me feel suspicious. Furthermore, I continued to endure the mistreatment from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, making my life in this house gradually more painful. In the midst of all that, an unexpected event occurred. My husband suddenly disappeared. Strictly speaking, he eloped with a co-worker and vanished without a trace. While both my father-in-law and I were absent, it seems that my husband was freely indulging himself at work and had developed a romantic relationship with his secretary. And then, he abandoned everything and disappeared with her. This came as a shock to the entire family. My husband, who was supposed to take over as president, was gone, and he was even having an affair with his secretary. Due to his reckless behavior, the company's management was on the verge of collapsing. In order to handle this situation, my father-in-law, despite being in a wheelchair, had no choice but to take charge and handle various matters. I was filled with sadness and frustration due to the betrayal from my husband. But first and foremost, I had to support my father-in-law and rebuild the company. So I suppressed my own feelings. I could not abandon my father-in-law and the company. After that, for a while, I took care of my father-in-law's caregiving while also attending board meetings together. I was working with my father-in-law while being at home. Since my father-in-law's mind was still sharp, the company's recovery was progressing smoothly, and little by little, our daily life was returning to a more stable state. In the midst of all that, one day, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law confronted me. "Hey, Tammy." "What is it, Rachel?" "When are you leaving?" "Huh?" "Well, you were abandoned by Nathan, weren't you? He even left behind the pre-filled divorce papers and walked out. And yet, you're still lingering here. Isn't it because you're after our father's inheritance? You're just a money-hungry, despicable woman." Upon hearing that, my mother-in-law joined in and followed suit. "That's right. You are truly disgusting. On top of that, you have a rude mouth and an ugly face and heart." Saying that, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law mocked me and burst into laughter. Even after my husband eloped, I had been taking care of my father-in-law, so why do I have to endure such comments? "Just get out of it already. You poor excuse for a person." Unbelievable. Just how much do they think I've done for this house and company? I've reached my limit, and I finally decided to leave my in-laws' house. First, I played the recordings I had kept of the numerous verbal abuses from the two of them to my father-in-law. I couldn't just keep taking it without doing anything. That's why I was recording it for some time in the future. My father-in-law was left speechless after hearing the countless outrageous verbal attacks from the two of them.
Tammy, I feel truly sorry for causing you so much pain all this time. I didn't realize it before, and I deeply apologize.
My father-in-law apologized to me. He also mentioned that he would divorce my mother-in-law and cut ties with my sister-in-law.
Thank you so much for everything you have done until now. If you're okay with it, Tammy, I would like to continue relying on you at the company. Is that alright?
Yes, I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you. I decided to leave the house with my father-in-law's permission. Afterward, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law ended up experiencing hellish circumstances. It must have been around 2 weeks later. I received a phone call from them. "Hello, what's the matter?"
Wait a minute. What do you mean? Why are we going through all this?
Both of them appear flustered. "Please calm down and speak properly."
We were kicked out by my father. You must have manipulated something.
They expressed their anger while saying so. I simply played a recording of the verbal abuse you two subjected me to all this time and let Douglas listen to it.
What?
Well, Douglas got angry after hearing about it and kicked you both out. So it's your own fault, isn't it?
Don't joke around. What do you think you're doing? That's right. You're just a plain woman who got dumped by Nathan.
See whatever you want. It doesn't matter, right? However, I'm already free. Oh, and by the way, I will be taking over Douglas' company.
What do you mean?
Nathan abandoned his work and ran away from the company. You two weren't working to begin with, so it seems Douglas wanted to entrust everything to me. In fact, ever since Nathan eloped and abandoned his duties, I have been working closely with Douglas all this time. It seems I was able to earn his trust.
That's unbelievable. Are you trying to take everything from us?
Oh no, not at all. First of all, isn't the house and company both owned by Douglas? Besides, it was you two who were benefiting from it, right? But if you act arrogantly and do as you please, it's no wonder you're no longer welcomed. I've already conveyed what I wanted to say, so are we done here? I'm busy, unlike you two who just play around.
Wait a minute.
I said that and hung up the phone. It was a bit disappointing that I couldn't see my mother-in-law's frantic reaction. But since it seems like they were in quite a difficult situation, I thought, well, serves them right. Afterward, my in-law's divorce was finalized, and my father-in-law sold the house. Currently, he's living alone in a luxurious barrier-free apartment and has hired a caregiver to assist him in his daily life. At work, my father-in-law has been teaching me various things to prepare me for taking over as president. By the way, concerning my ex-husband, it seems that a few years ago, he accumulated debt and found himself in trouble, so he visited my father-in-law for help. However, of course, my father-in-law turned down my ex-husband's request. It appears that my ex-husband mentioned that he would take over the company, but when he heard that I would be taking over instead soon, he seems to be filled with despair. And so, it was declared that his ties would be severed with my father-in-law, and it seems he hasn't been seen since then. I don't know how he's doing now, but he's probably struggling with a life full of debt and poverty. By the way, my ex-mother-in-law and ex-sister-in-law are living together in a cheap apartment, I heard. Unable to forget their once affluent lifestyle, they have apparently become overwhelmed with credit card payments and consumer loans, drowning in debt themselves. The path they will follow from now on will undoubtedly be a living hell, but it no longer matters to me. I intend to make good use of what I learned from my father-in-law and protect the lives of my subordinate as their president.